Good evening, and welcome to Omnibus Roundtable. My name is Sandra Campbell, and I'll be one of your co-hosts this evening for this show. My other co-host is Miss Jean Lockett.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeannie Lockett, and I am your other co-host for this evening.
And our special guest this evening is Miss Pamela Calamy.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, ma'am.
Yes.
Now, what we want you to do is to grab a pen and call a friend and watch us do our jobs. Now, let's start out with Pamela. You see these wonderful books we have here. This is the wonderful work of Miss Pamela Calamy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Pamela Calamy, and I have an organization called The Renewed Woman. I created The Renewed Woman in 2005 for women who were going through domestic violence. I felt that women needed a platform where they could come out and speak, because being in domestic violence, you feel like you're alone and there's nobody there to help you. And so what I did was I got a organization together so they could come out and talk about what they were going through, because I never got that chance. You know, I used to talk to counselors and everything, but it was not like that feeling that you get from other women that are going through. And so I created The Renewed Woman.
Oh, The Renewed Woman.
Yeah.
Now, are you a domestic violence rescuer, or is it just an organization where women who don't feel that they have anywhere to go or anyone to talk to, they can come to your organization? And tell us about some of the programs you offer.
Absolutely. It's job training. We teach self-esteem classes. The main focus of the program is to get women to understand what they're going through. You know, like I said, domestic violence is a progressive thing. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that is a progression, and women need to know that this thing is real, and other people need to know that it's real. A lot of times we want to push it under the rug because we have brothers and sisters who are ashamed of it, but it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
These women need help. I know I needed help really bad. And like I said, it's a very, very nasty, nasty situation.
And you know what? Most individuals need to know how they are in a domestic violence relationship. I've been there, done that. And it's amazing how you have someone who says that they love you. They want to show you all of the things that a person who's supposedly to be in love does. But then after a while, it comes from that tap. It comes from that hit. And abuse is physical, mental, verbal.
Yes.
So it's not always just the physical. In most cases, especially with mine, it started out being verbal.
Absolutely.
And then the verbal turned into
Something
the physical. And then it became a mental thing, because now it's that control.
Yes.
You see, and a lot of times some women, maybe they are, but some think that they're so strong that they can't fall into that. And as you stated earlier, it's not something that just happens.
Right.
It's ushered into.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys shared with us earlier about talking about abuse in the teenage years.
Yes.
A lot of women, and I think Jean even shared with us, hers started. I
actually started at the age of 15.
Yeah.
And I went for 5 years being in a domestic violence relationship. And it went from being here into Chicago, then moving to Mississippi, where that entrapment came, where there's no family, to the point, and I just thank God for my grandfather, because it got to a point where I had to come back. I was beaten so bad, even my own mother didn't even recognize who I was. And so we have to be aware, and we fall into that entrapment, whereas they sometimes let you know who else is going to want you. And then at that time, before I came out of it, I was a mother of 2 children.
Right.
I had my first child when I was 16. So I was entrapped in this, and by the time I came out of it, those years had went past. And I then later found myself doing a repeat.
Thinking the same kind of bad.
Exactly.
Yes,
You thinking that you're doing, but it's something about, you know, looking for love in all of the wrong places.
Yeah.
And especially if you've come out of a domestic violence relationship, it's like, okay, now he's saying and he's doing these things. And that following, it wasn't so much of just a physical, it became a mental.
Yes.
Okay, and then it got to that point where now I'm going to do this. Well, at that time, it was like, okay, whoa, I can't take no more punches. You know, I can't do this, that, and the other. And it took me to a whole nother level. But domestic violence is something that women have to be very, very careful of being in.
And not only women, we also give to with men too, because it happens to them also.
Yes.
Now, your organization, does it service men as well as women?
Yes, it does. I have a man's book, The Renewed Man. But basically what that book is for the abuser. And I'm showing men in the book that they can channel that. Instead of taking and punching a woman, you could channel that into going to play golf, doing a walk, doing exercises, anything to channel that anger into something else instead of beating on a woman.
Well, you know, I'm the mother of an adult son. My son is 34 years old. And one of the things that he was raised on, I wasn't a victim of domestic violence, but I always told him that, you know, it wasn't, no real man would ever jump on a woman, because first of all, just out of physical brute strength, most men can overpower any woman anyway.
Absolutely.
And then that, you know, that's the sad part about the abuse, is that if you already know I'm physically stronger than you, that I'm able to hurt you, why would I do that if I say I love you?
Right.
And if it gets to the point where we can no longer talk about it, someone has to be the adult and walk away.
You know, one of the things that I found and I think was so inspiring is to see that you actually had something for the abuser. A lot of the time we touch the surface.
Yeah.
But we don't get to the root of the problem.
Absolutely.
And with the root of the problem, and when you say the renewed man, what is the success of that? Has anyone had the opportunity of being a part of that, or is that just something that's just new to the surface?
The renewed man is something that's new. And one of the things that I found out from another man is men don't like to talk.
Oh, true.
Women
we know that.
love to talk.
Right.
Yes, and I get a lot of women, but the success rate for having the men to come out, we're still trying to work with that, because like I said, men don't want to talk. They don't want to uncover things like women do. So right now it's just in the infancy right now. I've got the book out. I've had like 2 men come out because they were court appointed to come out. They were made to come out.
And that's what I was about to say. I think I would actually take your book to the county courts and to the domestic violence court, because they have to go into some type of anger management program anyway. And I believe it's a sliding scale. This would be a great introduction to and a great resource for those men. I mean, rather than simply sitting there with a bunch of men who don't want to really open up.
Right.
You know, here it is, it's something, it's kind of private, but yet you can share it because you can pass the book around. You don't have to necessarily talk about it, because once each man answers or responds to it, he simply circulates it around the room, and then others that can relate to him could actually say, well, yeah, this was once me. Or I know what you're saying. I feel the same way. And again, like you say, I can kind of see where the abusers may feel once it's brought to their attention that this is exclusive. You know, this is only happening to me. I'm the only one that can't do this, or it's so personal or so private. You don't want to share it, you know.
What made you do that?
You know what? It's like like you said, we have stuff for women. We need to get these abusers and let them be accountable for what they're doing.
I like the word accountability.
Accountable, yes. They need to know that what they're doing, like you're saying, they're hurting another human being. And I am so tired of seeing all of these young girls being murdered. You know, I have a friend that I befriended on Facebook, and her daughter was murdered. And it's just really sad, but she's out there and she's every day, that's all she has on her page is she's talking about her daughter, because she wants us to never be.
She needs some healing.
Yes, she does, and this is her healing, just as well as it is mine. This is my healing. The more women that I see that I can talk to and discuss this issue with, and let them have a platform to talk about what they're feeling, it's a healing for me as well. And so I also feel that the abuser needs to be healed.
And I think this is great for, especially in our economic climate now, those of us that are my age and a little bit older. This is actually my 4th go around with the bad economy. I was young with Nixon. I remember Reaganomics. I remember Bush #1, then Bush and Cheney, then bushwhacked and chained. And each time, domestic violence was on the rise. Because as you know, during the Super Bowl is always one of the most violent times for women. And also along the holidays. But also, third, is during poor economic times.
Yes.
And so you can imagine now this time is somewhat unique because even in the past, we had different outlets. Everything went wrong this time altogether. Previously, it was just maybe jobs, and then things were so expensive. But you still had houses. Now they've lost their houses, they lost their jobs, they lost their cars, they've lost their future. And now who suffers? The women and the children.
Exactly.
Child abuse and domestic violence usually comes out during this time.
I have a young lady that's going through that right now. You know, and it's amazing because she's reaching out for help, and the help is not coming to her. You know, and it's like, what is going to end up happening? You all want another statistic? I mean, if she's reaching here, she's reaching there. Someone should respond.
Well, you know, we're going to have to take a short break right now. Again, this is Omnibus Roundtable. Call a friend, grab a pen, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to another segment of Woman to Woman. I'm your host, Wanda Carter, and tonight you need to grab your pen and call a friend because this is a segment you don't want to miss. I'm going to introduce you to our guests in just a moment, but first let me tell you how you can see us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Woman to Woman TV show. And also on ECTV, www.ectv.com, and then click on Streaming Live and watch the featured show. Now, let me take just a moment to introduce you to our panel. Starting to my right, we have Mr. John Alexander.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Alexander. I'm a book writer. My first book will probably be out in the near fall called The Cry Within the Man. I want you to go to the store and look for it. And I'm also a photographer, so if you need photography, reach me through Woman to Woman.
Woo! There you go. And now we have our wonderful guest, Miss Tabitha Carson.
Floyd. I'm a children's advocacy. I work here in Chicago trying to save the lives of many children on the south side, west side, north, and east of Chicago.
Excellent, excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have Miss Margot Richmond.
I'm an insurance agent and the broker for the state of Illinois. I'm also a community activist and a missionary, and I'm here as the peacemaker on this panel.
Ooh, and we need a peacemaker because tonight we're going to be talking about, you know, I'm still standing. I don't know about you all, but a lot has happened to me throughout the course of my life. And just the fact that it's happened and I'm still here to tell you about it, that means I'm still standing.
That's right. Amen.
So, I mean, tonight we have Tabitha, and she's going to tell us about her special experience. And then from there, we can each share our stories. Tabitha, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was born here in the city of Chicago and the Robert Taylor Homes, given up for adoption at the age of 7 months old.
Wow.
And I've been through some tragedies in my life as a child. Through the process of Department of Children and Family Services, I've had some bad experiences, and which I am trying to do right now is to rechannel the department, and I had a epiphany.
Okay.
And God spoke to me
Okay.
and said, you know, I want you to turn the initials around from DCFS to SFCD.
Ooh, tell us what that means.
Yeah, I wanna know
Exactly.
that.
I said, God, you spoke to Moses with a burning bush, but I don't see a bush in this room. So he says, I'm speaking to your heart, which is on fire like that bush. So the initials SFCD stands for Set Free Christ Disciples.
Set
in that
free
order, there's restitution
Christ
for you
disciples.
and many other families, children that have been victimized by the system.
So you're going to help us understand how we can get through the system
Exactly.
and still be
Be
standing.
Yes. Amen.
Oh, I
Great,
love
great,
it. I
great.
love it. Okay, well, I'm not sure how far back you remember.
Oh, I remember all the way back to 5 years old.
Wow.
And that was my first tragedy, my first experience through abuse
Okay.
while being a foster child. I've had a lot of bad experiences, but how that I got to this point, prayer, a lot of prayer,
Okay.
a lot of hands-on,
Okay.
hands touching,
Okay.
pastors and people connecting with me, but it wasn't easy.
I'm sure
Trust
it
me.
wasn't. I'm sure
You know,
it
as
wasn't
a child, you know, you tend to lock up. You hear the words of, you're not going to make it, you're not going to mount up
And
to
that's
anything.
bad when parents or guardians tell you negative things, you know,
Absolutely.
like you'll never be anything, you know, you're stupid, or
Oh, I've heard that.
you should never tell a child anything other than something to encourage them.
But you know what happened when you tell a child that, you know, people don't know that they say the power is in the tongue. And so when you say things to a child, as a child, that person don't remember it as much until they get older, and then it keeps replaying right back in your head all
It's
over
like
again.
a tape recorder.
So sometimes you gotta look at people saying, you're not gonna be this and you're not gonna be that. You ain't no good. You just like your doggone daddy.
Yes.
Da 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 da. And so at that point, when do a person heal themselves? And I think they heal themselves by, like what we were saying tonight, still standing, but knowing why you're still standing.
Exactly.
Because if you don't know why you're still standing, then you just fall down and you just lay down and then you be down.
I think that we are all the child inside, you know, as adults, that we grow into these full-size bodies, and the law says after you're 18, you're an adult, but most of us don't mature until we get well into our 30s, and some of us until our 40s, and some
in they
not at
50s.
all. No, some, I know some 60-year-old children.
Come on.
I don't know
Come
none of
on
them
now,
kind of
I
people.
know some 60-year-old children.
Okay. But you know, in the growth process, God designed us to weather some storms. And in that whole process, even as a child, there are some children that are far more mature than some adults.
Yes.
But you gotta
Because I
ask yourself
think that
question, why,
those,
too,
I
though?
think that because God don't make mistakes.
You're right.
Right.
And he plants the seeds the way he wants them to grow in his garden, because
Right.
he knows that there's going to have to be some children that's going to have to bring some adults through.
Yes.
Right.
So in that whole process of all of this, we look forward to having a great time. Still standing means a lot of different things. And like she said, I come through DCFS. There's some great things about DCFS, but there's a lot of things that needs to be fixed in
Absolutely.
DCFS.
Like,
So-
what would you think need to be fixed inside of DCFS?
I was one of those that they told that you weren't going to be anything. What I mean by that is that I kept hearing that over and over, to the point it manifested me, and I actually believed that.
And when you believe it, then you act it out. It
Oh, yeah.
manifests
Oh,
for
yeah.
you.
But did
Exactly.
did it manifest at that point where you started not believing that you weren't going to be anything but other
Yeah.
than what they said they're going to believe?
I was
But now
acting
the
out.
question is, when did it change?
Oh, you know, when you mention in your 20s and 30s, that's when it started
Yes.
changing.
Yes.
I mean, I knew as a child that I was mature in many ways, but I couldn't express it as much because I was a child. But what I don't like, being in the ward of the state at that particular time, I saw a lot of restraining. I saw a lot of hand-on-hand negative type of restraint, instead of sitting down with the child and talking with that.
So is that restraining towards the child, not towards the parent? Because nowadays DCFS is kind of the opposite. They more towards the child and not the parent. You know, a child can say, my dad hit me, and then next thing you know, DCFS is coming out of the house. So how do you discipline when you got that kind of stuff going on in the background of a
But
person's
she
life?
was inside of the system.
In the system.
She wasn't at home.
Oh, she was at
She
home.
was in the system as a ward of DCFS.
Oh,
And I've
okay.
witnessed to the point where I've seen restrained, a young lady being restrained, I would say about 4 guys on top of 1 girl, breaking her arm. It was recently, not recently, but in the paper, a 10-year-old died because of that in Maryville. So changes have to come about. That's when I did my interview with Sarah Shelty pertaining to my own life, my story. I wanted to start doing a little research on Tabitha, and I requested for my records. And when you mentioned you start remembering things
from
and
the
I had
past.
backflashes, and I wanted to know what were these backflashes about. So when I did, I sent the paperwork in, got my records back, and majority of everything was blacking out. They didn't want me to know.
So how did you find out?
Yeah,
Well,
how did you?
The truth, the word, God told me. He showed me. I mean, it was, if your mind already knows, the spirit, the spirit in itself was already telling me what happened. It was, I guess I wanted confirmation, but God already gave me the confirmation, and the thing is, as far as the remedy, is salvation.
Yes.
And that's what I was seeking after I had the confirmation.
See,
So-
and I believe that, a lot of people believe they have to look at the Bible, read the Bible, and live their lives according to the Bible. I believe the Bible is written in my heart.
Ain't there?
I believe that my spirit is the God spirit talking to me, guiding me, leading me, instructing me. And so my Bible is in my heart.
But not to throw that off, I understand what you're saying, but there were moments where, I would have to grab the Bible, grab the word. I started grabbing the Bible at 12 years old.
Okay.
So, I mean, I didn't just start from the book of Genesis. I would always hold that Bible in my hand. I would say, okay, God, show me, guide me to the direction, the page you want me to read today.
And he did that.
And he did exactly that.
Okay.
So,
Because she prayed first.
exactly.
But you know what? It begins even somewhere, because when you said I grabbed it, somebody, somewhere, or even placed it,
Planted it? Or
planted
talked about
it, someone came in and introduced it at some form. You may not be able to go back and remember when. I sat in churches for many, many years because my grandfather was a minister, but the Bible was always
It's
present
there.
somewhere. And so it did not go in and sit in here until I opened it up and read it. And then it began to manifest, because I had to deal with a lot of children working in the system as well. Children that were abused, children that were going through, and the system was trying to protect them the best that they knew how, but then it caused a lot of problems. So, we have to really get out here and really, really fight. So I'm glad to see you for the
thank you.
millions and millions of children that's out here. Tabitha,
yeah.
continue to
Right,
speak for them.
Oh, yeah.
Continue to fight for
I
them.
can relate to these
Yeah.
children out here.
Sure.
And sometimes a lot of people don't understand, but it's not for them to understand.
Yes.
It's God's plan. That's the whole ticket. So when you mention about the Bible,
Yes.
granted, I was adopted at the age of 5. And my adopted parents, my father was a deacon. My mother was a senior choir director, Union Hill Missionary Baptist Church. I was in the choir. So the Bible was entered into me at an early age of 5. But when I started getting those backflashes at 12, I just kind of pushed
What
the
made
Bible
you think that
away.
it took so long for those flashbacks to all of a sudden just start hitting you in
Actually,
the head?
I was having dreams. And those dreams kept coming back and forth. It was like memories that I was suppressing. I was suppressing something. And I was too afraid to tell my adopted mother what the dreams were about.
When did you tell her?
At the age of 15.
Oh, so you waited 3 more years.
Yeah. It
Why-
was until I felt a little more comfortable, because what I've experienced was not normal.
So did you go
it's
through
a
like
lot of-
foster homes and foster homes and foster homes, or did you just go to one foster home?
I was in various foster homes from the age of 7 months old to 5 years old.
And
So
then you
until
got...
I was adopted.
Okay.
So between that time period at 4 years old, I had something bad happen to me. It was a rape at 4 years old. And I suppressed that. Once I was adopted, this is the thing about the system. They never told my adopted parents.
That you were raped?
Never. Never told them. It's just like when you don't call a child a car, a vehicle, but it's just like when you're buying a vehicle, you want to know what's wrong with it. You want to know if the alternator's bad, the battery's bad, just like a child. You want to know if you're getting a baby from the age of 5 years old, you've got 5 years that you need to catch up with this child. No one told them that.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and I've just recently worked in the system a couple of years ago, a lot of times when the children come in, they have to dig for information.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of information that they have to dig. Sometimes they go into the homes and they come out with void information. Sometimes the children are never taken to hospitals. They're never taken to doctor's offices. They may have taken them for a couple of times. But even DCFS has to do a lot of investigation to pull up the past and history.
What does closed adoptions mean? I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm not into, I don't have the information on closed
well,
adoptions.
Well, it was a closed adoption, meaning that they could not give her any information
about you,
about me, and back in 1974. So a lot of things have changed. So
yeah,
that's interesting. That is very interesting. So I understand you got some conditions that you have to deal with now physically.
Yeah.
And how are you dealing with that?
Triumphantly so. I try not to say that I have it. You know, I don't want to claim it,
yes.
But I have cancer, so I am fighting a battle, and the battle is not mine, it's the Lord's.
Well, I have diabetes, and I'm fighting the battle too.
Amen. Amen.
Let's don't get on the cancer trip.
Okay.
Because, you know, cancer is one of those things that we have to really, really, really kind of pay attention to ourselves. I think we forget how to heal. And I recently was helping a homeless guy. This is this year, a couple of weeks ago, and I was helping a homeless guy. And by helping this homeless guy, I end up at the doctor, which was his doctor. And I began to talk to this doctor, make a long story short. I began to talk to this doctor, and I was telling him I was having these rush pains go across the chest. Wasn't a heart attack, wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
So he told me to lift my shirt up and examine my chest. And decided and told me that I was in stage 1.
Oh, man.
And he said, John, did you have a tumor? I said, yeah, but I just had my cancer removed from my throat. He said, that operation a year ago is probably what saved your life this year.
Wow.
So in about a couple of weeks, I'll be going through the mammogram. And really seriously, men,
talk to the brother.
Men, if you can see this and hear this, men get breast cancer. Men should have I'm having a mammogram. I'm letting you know that now. I'm having a mammogram, a bilateral mammogram. It's not fun. But if you love your family, you love your children, and you love the people that you're around, then you got to do the earthly work so God can do the spiritual work. Because they surprised that I'm still even talking right now. So men, go to the doctors, get that colon check, get that prostate check, get everything in your body checked, because eventually when it happens and it reaches the stage that it reached a man who's a billionaire and died, there's no turning back, and he had all the money in the world. Well, those of us who don't have money, get to the doctor. Do not be ashamed. Cancer is a black man's and a man's killer. Please go to the doctor. I don't want to cry on the camera, but I'm getting real serious about this because this hurts.
Yes.
It hurts real bad. When you have to go through operations and operations and operations and operations, you're trying to get past all this BS. Men, go to the doctor. Do this for your wives, your family, and your kids. Do not do it, because when it's too late, it's too late. And you can't say I shoulda, woulda.
Go.
You can't say go.
Go.
And John, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have 2 brothers. And I'm just glad that you bold and you're coming forth and you're actually saying that, because I have 2 brothers. They was diagnosed with prostate cancer 6 months apart. So they have each other's strength. One is in the military and the other one has his own private insurance, but the service that they give to the military men, the service is far greater
than anything you can
get. And the knowledge is there for the veterans that my brother with private insurance. So their resources, they're bouncing back off of each other with resources, and other friends of mine who's our prostate cancer survivors. So I'm telling you, men, you know, don't be ashamed, get up and go. Go check on yourself, because we love you, and I'm just grateful for my brothers, and I'm grateful for you, John. So stay strong.
Yes, stay strong.
It's really hard sometimes.
Stay strong.
And you're still standing.
All right. You heard it here on Woman to Woman. Thank you for watching.
And a guy.
And we have a guy too. So be blessed and watch us on youtube.com/Woman to Woman TV show.